let's just kick it off. The quick intro here. Cliff and Matt, love to know in like a minute, what do your companies do? So Cliff, since you're our guest, would you like to start?
Yeah, no problem. So our company, Cottage Senior Living, is a owner, developer, operator of senior housing, predominantly assisted living and senior apartments. Over the last 10 to 15 years now, we've been investing in, trialing, and testing IoT and assistive devices for those environments.
Cool, yeah, and so we're with Igor, and so Igor, we enable intelligent buildings, and so intelligent buildings foster productivity, fulfillment, safety, security, and other benefits, and then we deploy a digital infrastructure via power over Ethernet to enable to utilize IoT to create better experiences for commercial buildings.
Thank you. Let's dive in by setting a little foundation. I just want to know from your perspectives here, how do you define a smart fill in the blank, right? Smart healthcare facility, smart senior living facility. What makes it smart, and what role does IoT technology play in a smart facility?
Yeah, Cliff, do you want to go in first?
We'll flip it. Matt, go ahead.
All right, cool. So first off, I like to say what an intelligent healthcare space, like it's going to foster occupants or patients' well-being while offering productivity gains for those delivering care and services, right? And so the idea is for IoT, or IoT is that tool that we use to collect data, link disparate systems, and automate those experiences. So while today, the topic is very broad, we're talking about healthcare, right? Well, so the idea is I can take IoT and I can apply a single platform across any of those verticals, whether it be a hospital room or an extended care facility or independent living condominiums, and leverage that single platform to deliver better experiences.
Yeah, for me, it's about flexibility. Over the last 15 years, you've seen just the personal wearable device market change from a basic pedometer to now we have heart rate, blood pressure, steps, you name it. And we're starting to capture that data. Well, in my environment, we've struggled with how to grab that information or grab that data and convert it to information. And so a smart building of the future, or today for that matter, is about flexibility. Can we adapt to the changing devices, the changing metrics that can be captured, and provide an environment where we can collect it efficiently and turn it into information for our caregivers, for our administrators, to deliver better services and better experience.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting. Let's hone in a little bit on the patient, or even Cliff, when we think about the family experience, what sort of integrations are patients and family members most excited about that are taking these facilities to the next level?
I think the overarching concern that I hear when people think about senior housing in particular is a somewhat of a distrust. Am I receiving the services that I'm paying for? Is mom getting that quality of care? And so it's really about visibility into the services being provided and the touch points that we're delivering. I think that's going to be the most important feature. However, there's the flash, there's the excitement associated with being able to provide a smart building experience, a smart home experience, and do that on a commercial scale so that our residents don't have to go and buy their Wise camera, or you name it, the off-the-shelf IoT device that they'd have to struggle to integrate themselves. To be able to do that in a residential environment or in a institutional environment and provide that as a value add is a great opportunity for us.
Yeah, Cliff, do you have like any specific like smart technology features or integrations that you think are taking the experience to the next level though?
Yeah, so I really like the fact that we now have the ability to do fall detection sensors that are passive. Um, we've explored a smart diaper as an example that does measures incontinence over time and can identify problematic incontinence. So really, it comes back to that flexibility comment. As soon as someone creates a device that can help us identify in advance a problem that someone might have, and we can put a proactive measure in place, that's a huge benefit to our residents and their families.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to throw another example out there that are a little more specific that we're seeing or I'm seeing, and that's color tuning. So when I think of color tuning, it's the ability to adjust color hues and the intensity of electric light, right? And so the idea there is that dimming and color tuning provides both a psychological and a biological benefits that can influence our behaviors. And then while you can do that pretty manually with light, and that's also a great feature, but then you can also apply automations to that and policies. And so we can take automations and policies and link that to specific like schedules and colors of light to that specific occupant. And so the idea is that as these experiences become more automated or more intertwined in their day-to-day experiences, they don't realize the positive benefits of doing things as simple as a color tuning of light, and it becomes part of that total experience for the occupant or the resident or the patient.
You're right, Matt. We've been researching circadian rhythm lighting and how to deploy it in our communities for years, and are really looking forward to the potential use in particular in our assisted living environments. It's supposed to show really big benefits to those residents.
Cool. Cliff, for you guys, are you doing anything with like real-time location services, or you got any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, so actually a number of years ago, we ran a pilot and paired our caregivers and our residents and really identified some big gaps between the care delivered and the care we thought we were delivering, meaning we prescribed, call it 2 hours a day, and we're delivering in some residents' instances 5, 6, 7 hours a day of hands-on care. And so we have developed an RTLS system in our environments that uses Bluetooth to track people's locations. And that allows us to deploy the right caregiver at the right point in time, but also we can kind of track those interactions. Our goal over time is to create a quality of life index out of it by associating how people are interacting together, do their families visit, and kind of trying to start quantifying what isolation and loneliness looks like compared to in our environments.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like I love how you talk about the data side of it, right? And being able to make those almost scorecards, right? And and being able to link that data to other activities. And it's the same thing we talked about with that previous example about how can I automate experiences based off their preferences or their policies and and the information about those occupants. And I think it'll become more and more exciting as long as we can get a centralized place to collect all that data from.
Yeah, that's been one of the hardest parts about this, call it exploration over the last 10 years, is everybody's providing a different IoT product with their own software front end. And as a general rule, we hire caregivers and the tech savvy and the willingness to learn a new application has been a big hurdle. So the sooner we can, as an industry, get together and consolidate that information into a tool that kind of churns it and spits out the right answers, or approximately the right answers, the better off the industry will be. And so we're really looking forward to the progress that Igor's systems are making towards the integration of those kinds of devices.
Cool.
That's interesting. I think you've named a hurdle in that all smart buildings face. It's the centralization of data and of controls into something that's easy. Otherwise you just have all of these smart silos and they don't communicate with each other. So I think that's why, I know you and Matt have been working on a lot of projects together, because Nexos, obviously, we believe can help solve that problem. Before we go into obviously some of the amazing, some more benefits of having a centralized system and the smart technology, what are some other, I'm curious, what are some other hurdles you've faced, Cliff, when you've considered smart building technology? You've definitely touched on one, but have there been any others in addition to that centralization component?
Yes. So in the senior housing space, it's an interesting model, right? We're trying to build buildings that are as home-like as possible. They have an institutional component to them, but it's this weird hybrid, if you will. And so our apartments have hard pan ceilings like you would see in a residential environment, and our hallways are more commercial and have drop ceilings. And so even though we've got some building infrastructure like a commercial building, it's still really expensive to retrofit technology that requires a lot of different wiring into the buildings, right? So that's been a big hurdle for us. It has been cost prohibitive in a lot of the scenarios to add sensor technology because they're not plug and play, and you got to add additional infrastructure on top of it.
Yeah, and so like to that point, Kim, like one of the things that we talk a lot about, or especially Cliff and I and everybody at Igor, is if we can utilize low voltage and go ahead and build buildings as digital infrastructures, leveraging both these direct current and power over Ethernet. So with power over Ethernet, we can take things like our Igor nodes, and we can power objects such as a light or such as a sensor, and then we can also collect data and provide real two-way communication to those objects. And so if we start to build buildings the right way, right, and we can definitely evolve them faster and allow owners and operators like Cliff's organization to be empowered to change, add, move things around, or link no longer disparate systems together, and they're now empowered and control their own destiny.
Cool. Cliff, it's really fun, I think, having you join us because you bring an owner's perspective as well. And I'm just wondering if you could elaborate a little more on, as you've been moving down the smart healthcare space, smart senior living space, and have been working on, with Igor now for several years, what are some of the key benefits to owning and operating a smart senior living space?
Oh, it's almost too many to list. No, really, we build buildings that we intend on having for 20 and 30 years, okay? And to build a building in today's environment that doesn't have the flexibility to adapt to the technology as fast as it's adapting I couldn't do it. I just can't fathom building a building traditionally right now. So I don't really know how to answer your question, honestly. You stumped me.
Yeah, that's great, but you answered it kind of, with the low voltage infrastructure, you can adapt to future scenarios you can't even imagine right now. A year and a half ago, we had no idea we would have launched an intelligent disinfection solution, but because we have a platform and software, agile environment, we were able to respond quickly to a market need and launch a product that we didn't know needed to exist 2 years ago. It wasn't on our roadmap. So, when we think of future technologies, we kind of don't have any idea what that'll look like in 5 or 10 years. And that's definitely in the early stages of those building life cycles.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's that kind of adaptability that a system like Igor in our buildings will provide security for us as a property owner, you know.
Are there any, I don't know if you guys want to share, are there any upcoming projects or things in the works, Cliff, that you're really excited about with any of your next projects in terms of IoT?
Yeah, so
or what you take it wherever you want?
yeah, so I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we've been working with Igor now for a number of years, trying to develop this system for our senior housing model, and so we're really excited. We're about to break ground on our next senior apartment building, and we hope that we'll get some kind of designation as the smartest senior housing building in the country. Every apartment will have color tunable lights, like Matt mentioned. We have the ability to add fall detection sensors. We can add for every one of our residents location services that would allow them to passively open their door lock with their smartphone or an emergency pendant. We can offer services, and really this is kind of the model that we're hoping to provide for our residents. Is you don't have to buy the smart home services. We believe our residents are going to want to buy smart home services, but we're building a building that allows them to buy services that enable them to be connected better than they would be at home. And so whether that's us helping them learn how to do a Zoom meeting, whether it's connecting them to an Xbox to play video games with their grandkids. We hope that our building enables our residents to stay connected better than they would in a traditional single family home or in any of our competitors' independent living communities.
Yeah, and then like some of my favorite things on this project are that the technology is integral to the infrastructure of the building, but from an end user perspective, you don't know it's there. It's working in the background. You can enable it, you can disable it, but the infrastructure is all in place. And so the idea is, like, if you have a resident or tenant or that just wants you know what they're used to in the past, they can have that. Or if they want to automate their experiences, those can be enabled. So for example, like concierge services are available to where Cliff's team can unlock and lock doors from afar. They can look to see if doors are open or closed. They can monitor those. They can send alerts. They can adapt the temperature of the entire building space by space by space at any one time. And then for those occupants that are using mobile devices, like we talk a lot about in hospitality, the key is to link the physical world with the digital world. And so the best way to do that is through the phone. And many seniors today are using things like Facebook. And so they're more inclined to use their mobile device to control their apartment or control their lifestyle or interact with others. And so the more ways that we can drive to that, I believe, and I know Cliff believes, that we can provide a better experience. And that's really the goal, is to provide the best experience possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, our philosophy for a number of years has been your life, your way. And so really it's about putting those tools in our residents' hands. And if they don't want to use the tool, but they want the benefit, we can put it in our hands. And so it's kind of a cool system that we've worked out, that it can be remotely administered by our team or administered by the resident themselves. And so it gives our customers that utmost of flexibility.
And if I had a loved one who needed to move into a senior living center, why would I send them anywhere else but a place where I knew that their comfort was considered in the design of the building, and to have that visibility as a family member? You know, I just think of how I kind of expect apps and data and to know what's going on in the world of customization it's here for, those of us who are looking for a safe and loving place to put, to maybe send some of our family members, so that might help settle those concerns about, what kind of care are they getting when I'm away? Well, you actually can look and show what kind of care, or have visibility potentially, in that for family, so I think that's increasingly important as the generations that are coming up are tech natives, and they want that to continue when they think about their, whether it's grandparents or parents or loved one, in that space. So when I'm thinking about this project that you're talking about, I'm wondering, if we think about logistics a little bit, what does it take, and how do you evaluate what technology you put into this space?
Oh, I think it's an everyday exercise for us. We're constantly evaluating what the next sensor is going to be that will help us either reduce risk or increase efficiency. And thankfully to Igor, actually, I can now focus on that sensor technology and not on how do I put it all together, right? So it puts me back in a position where I'm not trying to piecemeal these tools together. I'm looking for the tool and the developer of that tool that lets us tie it into our system, which is wonderful. So the next thing that we're looking for is the ability to monitor gait and use that as a predictive indicator of fall risk. In senior housing communities, falls are one of the most notorious but inevitable items. And so if we can find a gait monitoring solution that works well in our environment, then we can reduce risk for our residents and our family members. And so that's the next thing that's on our radar. But truly, it's an everyday search looking for academic papers and new companies who are developing wearables and sensor technologies that might benefit our residents.
Yeah, and from bringing like close vision to reality, it was about identifying the right team members early and often, right? So there's many members, from the architect to the electrical and mechanical engineer, that were heard of these things, but have actually implemented them. And so the key was education and communication early and often throughout that design process, and to stay flexible to where when we did find a new sensor, luckily the system that's being deployed, that can easily be added, right, without a significant change order or a significant tweak or a requote or an add. And so good teams, flexible system, and it allows us to push this project forward from a design and construction perspective.
Yeah, Matt, you bring up a really good point. One of the complexities that we've struggled with is the power over Ethernet infrastructure is relatively new, right? I mean, we've been doing power over low voltage since the origination of the telephone, but to deploy it to this extent as part of a building infrastructure has taken significant education, both of our architect and our electrical engineer. And it's taken a couple of years to find the right people, but now that we're developing enough experience with how to have those conversations, I think it's really streamlining our ability to take this model that we've developed and roll it out again and again and again.
So if somebody was interested in developing, or if they're maybe an owner of a senior living or a healthcare, healthcare space, because a lot of the applications we're talking about today, you're focusing on the senior living application, which is a unique use case, but it also, these sensors do work in other use cases in hospitals and clinics and things like that. So I think from Cliff, I'll have you continue focusing on your specialty, and then Matt maybe could focus on thinking more of the healthcare from the hospital and clinic side. Do you have any advice on if someone wanted to develop a space that's smart in this field that you're going to talk about? Any advice on getting started or pitfalls to avoid as they go through that process?
I'll go first. So if I were investigating, how do I create a better patient experience? How do I make my occupants fulfilled or productive? A great place to start is to contact guys like Cliff who are doing it, right? And so they're going to be able to show you and tell you why they did it. That's the Cliff and team have years and years of experience in the senior living space. And then beyond that, so the team at Igor, we're definitely here to we kind of act as I guess like trusted IoT advisors, right? So we know the technology and we know the sensor types and we know how to move the data and to provide value with that. And so if you have an end user problem that you're experiencing, whether it's in a healthcare, we're focused on healthcare here today, whether it's in a hospital or outpatient clinic, and you say, here is one of our challenges, or here's the type of data we're interested in, or we don't even have any data and we want visibility of data to create scorecards for our business. That's where Igor can significantly help to solve those challenges and leverage technology to do that, and do that in a cost-effective manner that's going to provide value to everybody from ownership to finance to the customer to the occupant to the patient. Everybody wins when you're able to better leverage an IoT platform.
Yeah, I think there's not much to add to that, Matt. We started this exercise, and really it's about getting educated. If I were interested in doing this, I would make sure that like our last conversation, I would make sure that I have people on my discovery team who have been through the process. I would vet my electrical engineers and my architects and make sure that they get educated on it before fully engaging them, so that they're aware of your objectives and your hopes and dreams associated with the deployment of a system like this. And I don't know if senior housing is that unique of a space, right? I mean, it's different, and it's not necessarily true healthcare, but all the sensor technologies that are out there that help our residents, whether it's resting heart rate, there's a sensor out there for resting heart rate and respiration that's a non-contact sensor. So you could mount that on the wall or on the ceiling and get those two metrics passively, without having to strap somebody to a monitor. And so I think those types of sensor technologies can be integrated easily into this Power over Ethernet infrastructure. And the only difficulty or difference between a senior housing space and, say, a more acute, skilled nursing, as an example, would be the hard pan ceilings in the residence apartments. And so that's just an infrastructure difficulty that our industry faces that a more acute setting might not face.
Wonderful. We're nearing the end, and I do want to give each of you one last time to leave any final thoughts on it can be on anything you feel like we haven't addressed, or how, if you need a prompt, how IoT is changed. Any last thoughts on the IoT impact in the healthcare space?
I would just say, it seems like we're talking about something that is going to occur 10 years down the road. The future is now. The infrastructure costs are finally at a place where a building owner and a developer and an operator can thoughtfully deploy a smart building. And so to not really explore it right now for your next building and your next project would, from my perspective, would be a mistake. So,
yeah, I was spot on, Cliff. we're stitching together the digital and the physical world to create those better experiences. And now is the time to deploy these systems because it can be done so cost effectively and delivered faster and provide you future proofing and flexibility. And I could go on and on and on, but now's the time, and we're ready to go today. And so as even in the future, as you start to see more and more IoT objects that are going to come on board, and you're going to see the cost of these sensors continue to you're going to see the cost drop, and you're going to see the cost drop and the size shrink. You're going to be proliferated with sensor data, right? And so the idea is that if we can build one building's nervous system, just like our human body has a nervous system that links together all these end objects, it's the same thing, but in a commercial built world, and it's ready, and it's here today, and it's not scary, and it's easy to achieve. So definitely.
Perfect. That's it. We've got our half an hour done. Thank you so much for both of you, the thoughtful conversation. We will follow up certainly with an email that includes links to this, follow-up information. And I want to encourage anyone in our audience who hasn't to go visit Igor's virtual open house. It's an on-demand linear event, and it closes Friday, tomorrow. So it's your last chance to check that out. You'll actually see a little bit more in regards to the senior living space, and then also our other verticals in the open house. So please check it out. And once again, Cliff and Matt, thank you so much for your time, and we'll see each other all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim, and thank you, Elizabeth, Lisa. Thank you for helping.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.